All right, NFL aficionado fiend fans, here is the Week 2 fantasy football picks and players. I expanded the list a little bit, so now I'm going to do the top 6 after reviewing the positions and then give you a couple sneaky plays afterwards. Hopefully my sneaky plays this week are better than they were last week. I think I only got one out of all the ones I gave you. Well, I got two, Cortland Sutton and Cam Little. But anyways, without further ado, we will jump into it. And hopefully everybody did well last week. And let's roll for week 2. Big game tonight. So, all right. So with the quarterbacks, after reviewing the list and looking at it and averaging everything out, you got Josh Allen, number 1 overall. Lamar Jackson, number 2. Jalen Hurts, number 3. Joe Burrow, number 4. Jaden Daniels, number 5. And Justin Herbert making it on the list at number 6. Josh Allen is going to New York to play the Jets. Jackson is going to, we'll have Cleveland at home. Hurts will be traveling to Kansas City. Burrow will be playing at home against Jacksonville. Daniels will be playing away at Green Bay. And Herbert will be playing away at Las Vegas. Looking at this list, Allen doesn't play well against the Jets, but I don't think the Jets are anywhere on the level of the Baltimore Ravens defensively. So I'm looking for a good game from Josh Allen. This seems to be the year that Sugar High Josh has finally gone away, and the game has slowed down for him to the point where he's just picking and choosing, and Brady, I believe, will come up with a better game plan than they did against the Ravens, where it just seemed like the offense was discombobulated for the first 3 quarters of the game. Then Josh took over in the fourth quarter, and you know what he did, guys. Almost 400 yards total offense. I know over 400 yards of total offense, 4 touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. So we really look for him to continue his streak because he is the Bills' offense. He goes how they go. They've got a good offensive line. James Cook does have a hamstring injury, so he's limited practice yesterday. Haven't got an update on him today. But I like Josh Allen, number 1 overall, moving forward. I think this is his year to dominate and then really put an accentuation on the MVP he won last year and really dominate moving forward. Jackson, he's got Cleveland. They're a division matchup. They do have a tough defense. They did stick it to Cincinnati last week. But Jackson is Jackson. I think he'll be fine. We're going into the second game. I think he'll do well in this game. His receivers are healthy. His running back is healthy. They have it together. Monahan knows how to call that, knows how to call that deal. And they finally have a third wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. He only had the 1 catch, but what an amazing catch it was last week. So, like Jackson at home versus Cleveland. Hurts, he wants to put a stamp on it. I think he's tired of being considered not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So if he goes to Kansas City, where it's always a tough game to play, and puts a stamp on it and really, shows everybody that, hey, the Super Bowl wasn't a fluke, and he's ready to. He owns Mahomes in their little rivalry they have going on. So Hurts, I expect a good game. Again, his upside is buoyed by rushing, but Kansas City couldn't stop Herbert last week. So if Philadelphia is ever going to have a chance to pop off and get some passing yards, I definitely think this is the week that they come alive and AJ does his thing. Joe Burrow going at home versus Jacksonville. Nervous about this one. He looked terrible, but Jacksonville is nowhere on the same level defensively as Cleveland. We know that, so this could be a comeback game for them. I think Cincinnati may come out a little angry because of how they were embarrassed last week, how their offensive played. It was the worst performance ever for Joe Burrow, but it comes down to the offensive line. If they can't protect Joe Burrow, then they're going to be in trouble. But like a bounce-back game for Joe Burrow, but a little nervous on that one. Jaden Daniels, Green Bay. Man, this one has me nervous as well. Green Bay put together a solid outing last week. Now, I do think that Washington has some continuity. They're a little bit better than, I would say they're better right now than Detroit, but they didn't exactly blow it up last week against the Giants. So this could be a trap game for him, especially because it's away. It's up in Green Bay. Those fans are going to be going nuts. They had the home opener last week, so you don't got to worry about that. They've already played once, so that fever pitch you get for the first home opener of the season is gone. But Daniels, again, this is the second year. They've got game tape on him now. They know how to get him. And don't forget his old buddy Micah Parsons is there. And that defense, Gary and Micah definitely looked good. And Micah was on a limited pitch count, so you should see more reps from him. Justin Herbert, I'm actually shocked he didn't finish higher this week. Based on what he did to that Kansas City defense and the fact that the Raiders don't have a great defense. It is away, but it's a division game. It's playing on the West Coast. So I wouldn't be shocked if Herbert finishes pretty high in the rankings this week as compared to his just number 6 overall ranking based on all the lists that I looked at. So, and then I do have my sneak picks this week. So I'm going to go with Dak Prescott is my first number 1 sneak pick. He's playing the Giants at home. I think they looked good last week. I don't think the Giants are anywhere close to what Philadelphia is defensively. And I think CD is going to come out and be angry and make some of those catches he dropped last week. So I see Dak having a really good game this week. I'll say 300 yards, and I'll say 3 touchdowns. Easily, maybe even 4. So Dak, my first one overall. The second one I got, man, this one pains me because y'all know what a homer I am to the Bills, but I think Justin Fields could have a good game. He's a poor man's Lamar Jackson. Again, doesn't have the receiving set. Breece Hall is not on the caliber of Derrick Henry. Don't get me wrong, but we saw what that offense did. We saw what Baltimore's offense did to Buffalo's defense. Buffalo's never played well against Breece Hall, so I like that run option game they got going on there. So I see Breece Hall. I see Justin Fields possibly having a good game and being a great fantasy start this week if you need a guy. So my last one. A little controversial here, but I'm going to run with it because I think they're going to come back. I think Tua Tagovailoa against New England at home, I think they're going to come out angry. I think they're going to come out popping. And if Geno Smith threw for 362 yards on them, I can't imagine what Tua is going to do because to me, I think Tua is just a little bit better, and I like the receivers better in Miami. So those are my 3 sneak peeks at quarterback. Dak Prescott at home versus the Giants, Justin Fields at home versus Buffalo, and Tua at home versus New England. All right, moving on to the running backs. So I was wrong on this one, but man, this dude came through, and now he really needs to come through, being that Brock Purdy won't miss the next 2 to 5 weeks. Christian McCaffrey finished number 1 overall. He's going to be playing at New Orleans. You got Bijan Robinson, who... Hey, I told everybody last week, and I'll continue to pound the table, pound the rock for this. I think Bijan Robinson will finish as the number 1 overall fantasy running back this year. He got off to a great start last week. Kind of went with a boom, kind of slid back a little, but I don't see any reason why he won't have another great game this week. So he will be at Minnesota. Derrick Henry finished at number 3. This one surprised me that he finished 3rd after the domination he did, but let's be real, Buffalo can't stop a wet paper bag. So, and Cleveland has a good defense. Myles Garrett gets after him. The Browns get up for when they play the Ravens, especially when Joe Flacco is their quarterback. So Derrick Henry at home. But I think they're going to come out angry, and they're going to come out looking to whoop somebody based on the way they lost that game last week, where they basically dominated for 3.5 quarters and then gave it away at the end of the game. So Derrick Henry coming in at number 3. Number 4, Saquon Barkley. He travels to Kansas City. I like him. I think he's going to do well. The Chargers, they were able to run the ball. Again, they didn't dominate running the game, but I like him. I think he's going to do well, and I think with the fact of having Hurts and having that run read option thing going, I like Saquon Barkley. Again, I don't think he's going to do the same stats he did last year, but so far so good. He's healthy and he's producing when he gets decent touches. And that offensive line out there in Philly is still good. But yeah, so number 4, Barkley at Kansas City. Number 5, Jahmyr Gibbs playing at home versus Chicago. This one concerns me because if they don't get that offensive line in Detroit figured out, Gibbs ain't going to have nowhere to run the ball. He is buoyed by the fact that they do like him as a pass-catching back, so they try to get him on screens and short little things like that. So you do have that benefit there that he's just not like a David Montgomery, where if he doesn't get the carries, he's not going to get the yardage. He does catch the ball, but again, that offense looks out of sorts right now without Ben Johnson and without those 2 Pro Bowlers in the center. So they really got to get that figured out before Gibbs is really going to produce like we hoped he would as possibly a top 3 running back this year. Maybe even number 1 overall if they really get that ball rolling. So a little nervous about Gibbs finishing at 5. But hey, sometimes things get going slowly in the running game, and then they pick up as defenses wear out a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. But I do like Chicago's defense. I do think they have a good defense, and I think they're going to be a little mad with the way they gave up those touchdowns in the fourth quarter last week. And it is at home in Chicago. So the last one, Devon Achane, he snuck into the list at number 6. He's playing at home versus New England. The running backs, Ansha Gente didn't do a whole lot, but Achane is a threat to go the distance every time he touches the ball. So I think with as bad as New England played offensively, I think Achane does a lot more in the screens and the little flare-outs and things like that to the running back. So I'm not looking for a big rushing game from him, but I am looking for overall touches for him and for him to pop a couple because New England their secondary looks woeful right now. Again, it was week 1. They still got a lot to go to figure out, but they're the free agency winners of the 2025 free agent class is not looking good for New England. So Devon Achane coming in at number 6 at home versus New England. So now on to my 3 sneak picks at running back. Don't really know if I call this one a sneak pick, but I think he has to have a big game because I think if he has a huge game, it helps out the Packers. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs at home versus Washington. I don't think he got a whole lot of carries last week, so I think he's going to be ready to roll. It's a Thursday night game. Want to keep Jay Daniels on the sideline, keep that defense fresh. So I look for Josh Jacobs to have a good game this week and get back up to where he was last year as a fantasy stud running back. So number 2, again, this pains me to say this, but I'm looking for a big game or a good game from Breece Hall. Again, Buffalo's never played well against him. He's quick, he's fast, he gets out on screens, he gets through the tackles, he's slippery. Again, and Buffalo's run defense is terrible. McDermott and Babbage really got a lot of work to do there. So Breece Hall at home versus Buffalo. He's always played well against the Bills, so I'm looking for a good game from him. Maybe a top 5 finish. Definitely, I see a top 10 finish for him this week for the running backs. Okay, last but not least is the guy who played so well. He got his competition traded out. That would be Mr. Travis Etienne of Jacksonville. They're going to Cincinnati and playing. I think Cincinnati's defense is absolutely terrible, and I think Jacksonville is way better than Cleveland offensively. So I'm looking for another big game for Etienne. Like to see him get in the end zone, but I'll take another 140 yards rushing game from him easily. And I think that's the key this year for Jacksonville is they're gonna run that ball, kind of do what Tampa did last year, and not put it all on Trevor Lawrence and let the team support him and get him some help. So again, my 3 sneak picks at running back are Josh Jacobs at home versus Washington, Breece Hall at home versus Buffalo, and Travis Etienne going up to Cincinnati. So like it there. All right, moving on to the wide receivers. Surprised this guy finished number 1 overall again, but hey, after the Triple Crown he did last year, you got to have faith, right? I know a lot of people drafted him maybe number 1, number 2 overall in their drafts, so got to have faith in this guy. I know he's on my dynasty team, so I'm pulling for him to do well, doing well. So none other than Jamar Chase. He will be at home versus Jacksonville. I don't think Jacksonville has a great defense. So I'm hoping that this is the breakout game for Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to get things done and rock it. Number 2, this is the guy I probably would have picked number 1 to finish number 1 overall or be number 1 this week, but came in number 2 when you did the averages. That's Mr. CeeDee Lamb at home versus the Giants. I think he's going to be angry about what happened on Thursday night, and he's going to come out and have a big game. And he's had 10 days of rest, so had a little bit of time to get things together, work out the kinks, work out the nervousness. But looking for a huge game from CeeDee Lamb. I think he's on pace to beat his previous best in 2023 when he really broke out and showed everybody that he was a dominant number 1 wide receiver. He's on my Dynasty League team too as well. Go figure, I have Chase, Lamb, and then funny thing is I have Jefferson as well. And speaking of Justin Jefferson, he came in number 3 this week, once you average it out. He's going to be at home versus Atlanta. Had a decent game last week, but again, he's tied to McCarthy. McCarthy played terrible. He did get that 1 touchdown score. I think it was like an 18-yard pass, so that did help his fantasy numbers. But overall, it wasn't the dominant passing game that we saw last year with Sam Darnold. However, I did see enough from McCarthy to start to believe in that guy and start to believe in Jefferson. So I think as the season goes on, you're going to start to see that connection really heat up and really do well. And Jefferson is going to continue to hit his role as a, I don't know where you want to rank them. Really, it's Jefferson, Lamb, and Chase, and you can kind of argue how you want to go from there. To me, it's kind of Chase and Burrow is a golden connection. He won the Triple Crown last year. CD Lamb, he's got an awesome connection with Dak Prescott. I'm looking for big numbers for Prescott this year. Really, Jefferson's the guy who's kind of behind the other two, simply because McCarthy hasn't shown that he's a elite level quarterback yet. But hey, he's a rookie, his first year. Let's see how it grows. But he does look for Jefferson. They do target Jefferson, and McConnell knows what he's doing out there. So, moving on. Number 4 coming in. First time I've said his name this year, but Puka Nacua. Guy's always been a dominant guy since he came in the league. Has some health injury issues, but he's clearly the number 1 option in that Rams passing game. And as long as Stafford stays healthy, I see Nacua putting up good numbers and big numbers. He's playing at Tennessee. Tennessee's terrible. Cortland Sutton had a great game against them last week, so I'm looking for Nacua to replicate that, possibly have better numbers because Bo Nix played terrible in that game. So if Stafford is 50% better than what Bo Nix played, Nacua should have a huge game at Tennessee coming up this week. Number 5, Malik Neighbors. He's tied to Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's garbage, so I'm not looking for a big game from him. I'm kind of shocked that the Neighbors made it to number 5 on the overall averages. He was, so some sites have him listed as questionable. Others don't have an injury designation for him anymore with some back tightness. I did look it up about 24. I'm making this video about 12:30 on Thursday afternoon. Last thing I saw was basically he was a full participant in yesterday's practice with no injury designation, but just want to bring it up that he did have one, and some sites still have him listed as having a back injury, but everything I can tell says it's going to be removed. He's going to be a full participant and go. So just keep an eye on him though in case something flares up. You know how back tightness is. So. But I do not expect Neighbors to finish in the top 5. I expect him to be a bust like he was last week simply because Russell Wilson is trash, and they need to move on and get to Jackson Dart. Number 6, again, I'm surprised this guy came up in there. Nico Collins, again, great receiver, but his quarterback hasn't played well in a long time, and his offensive and the offensive line there is garbage. So C.J. Stroud doesn't have time to get him the ball and let him do his thing. But he did finish 6th overall. He is at home versus Tampa, so we'll see how that goes. But again, I would, if you had other options besides Nico Collins, maybe he's a flex play for you right now. He's not a dominant number 1. I just can't. He's not a plug and play guy like like Chase and Lamb are, and Jefferson as well. I think those are plug and play. Even Nacua, as long as Stafford's healthy, I think Nacua is a plug and play. You plug them in, you play them, and you get what you get out of them. Okay, you don't hit home runs every single week. So. Moving on to my sneak picks at wide receiver. I picked this guy last week. He was a complete dud, but I think the game script and how things went in that game kind of contributed to that, where they didn't really need to use him or throw him the ball. But I'm going to go with A.J. Brown at Kansas City. He had a great game in the Super Bowl. I think he comes out this week, and the Eagles really try to make a concerted effort to get those receivers involved in the game. And after Justin Jefferson diced up that secondary last week, I see the Eagles trying to do the same thing. And let it go. I think they're going to try to key in on Barkley and basically, hey, they've got to start passing the ball to open up the offense to give Barkley running lanes and stuff like that. So I know he was a bust last week, but I'm going to double down on him this week and go with A.J. Brown at Kansas City to have a good game this week. My next one, again, I'm continuing a theme here, and it breaks my heart to do this, but Garrett Wilson at home versus Buffalo. That dude has just always seemed to be a thorn in the Bills' side. He's sneaky. He's a good receiver. I think if he had a better quarterback play, he'd be considered a top 5 receiver in the league. Definitely breaking into the top 10. But Garrett Wilson going again at home versus Buffalo. Buffalo's pass defense, those safeties, I don't know what they're doing out there right now. Buffalo's got a lot of things to fix on defense, but Garrett Wilson has always played well and always posted good numbers against Buffalo when they play. He always seems to come up with a weird touchdown catch, crazy acrobatic catch for them. So I like Garrett Wilson going against Buffalo, and that pains me to say that because y'all know how much I love my Bills. Last but not least, I'm going to go with Harrison. Over there, the Cardinals, they're going to play at home versus Carolina. I like what they did last week. Murray and Harrison seem to start RB clicking. He scored a touchdown last week. I think he had like 5 catches for 70 yards, 71 yards, something like that. But I like what they're building there. I think Harrison's going to build off his, move into that number 1 draft pick status, the elite draft pick status he did last year. But I like where they're going, and I just don't care for Carolina's defense. I think they're trash, and I think their offense is bad as well. So I think the Cardinals are going to basically get to run up the score in the first half, first 3 quarters, and then take it, and then basically go to a running game. But I like Harrison to really make a mark, might even get over 100 yards receiving this week for sure. So definitely looking good for him. So top 3 sneak picks: A.J. Brown at Kansas City, Garrett Wilson at home versus Buffalo, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. at home at Carolina. All right, moving on to the toughest position in the NFL to call, which is tight ends. There's really only so many elite ones, so we'll break right into it. Number 1 overall, finishing this week after you average out the list that I look at, was Trey McBride. He's at home versus Carolina. Had a decent game last week. I think 6 catches for 61 yards. Definitely targeted look. He just didn't get in the end zone, which is disappointing. Kind of continues that trend from last year. So we'll hope he can sneak into the end zone this year and score, because if he starts scoring touchdowns, he'll easily – it's going to be him and Bowers all year. So I really like Trey McBride. He's definitely a favorite target of Kyler Murray. So, again, Trey McBride, number 1 overall in the averages at home versus Carolina. So, number 2 is Brock Bowers. He's going to be at home versus the Chargers. Another fantastic game last week. He continues to just be the target out there in Raider Nation. Geno Smith, they seem to have great chemistry going, so I expect that to continue. The only caution I have about Brock Bowers is he is questionable. There was some kind of knee injury. Everything I checked up on and read about basically says, hey, he's full go, he's going to play, but he does have that questionable injury designation. And so it's Thursday. He plays Monday night, so really keep an eye on that, because you can't really replace the guy in your lineup. There's no tight end you're going to go out and get on the waiver wire that's going to replicate what Brock Bowers does for you and his status. Again, like I said, I think him and Trey McBride are going to fight for the tight end number 1 overall position all year. So Brock Bowers finishing number 2 in the averages, playing at home versus the Chargers. Number 3, this guy makes me nervous, but Sam Laporta coming in. He had a solid game last week. You can't complain. I think he had 6 catches for 71 yards. Last week. I think because of the challenges they have with that offensive line, he may stay in the block a little bit more, but I also think that they're not going to be that high-flying offense, so Laporta's going to become important for check downs and safety valves and things for Jared Goff as teams blitz and stuff like that. So I think Laporta's in a great position where he's at and how he's going to be a safety blanket for Jared Goff as the season moves on until they get that offensive line squared up, especially in the interior. So Sam Laporta at home versus the Chicago Bears, and we'll see how it goes from there. All right. Number 4, this guy, it surprises me this guy's in the deal, guys, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Travis Kelce sneaks in at number 4 on the averages that I look at. He's at home versus Philly. Again, he didn't have a great game last week. If you take away that busted coverage play where he got a 40-yard touchdown, he did nothing all game. So that really kind of got him to where he was at last week. So if you got him and you don't have any other options, go for it. But don't forget what Philly did to him in the Super Bowl. They absolutely just smoked him. So they took him out the game, frustrated him, and things like that. So I just think the longer the season goes on, the Travis Kelce that we know, again, probably to me, him and Tony Gonzalez, greatest receiving tight ends ever in the NFL. But the Travis Kelce we know and love is no longer that guy. He's there for moral support. I think this is his last hurrah. He didn't want his last game to go out the way he did, so he's there. But and he partially gets booted because really it's Hollywood Brown and him, and then nobody else. They don't really have anybody else to get the ball to, and he does have great chemistry with Mahomes and knowing where to sit down in the zones and just how to work that Mahomes magic. So he's good for a magical play, every few games. So it's tough to sit him, but he's definitely not a top 5 tight end like he got in here this week. Coming in number 5, shock this guy, but Tyler Warren for Indianapolis. He's going to be at home versus the Denver Broncos. That dude is an absolute stud. He is clearly a targeted receiver in that offense, and Daniel Jones will be looking for him. So we had a solid game last week against Miami. Now, you do have the number, who I believe is the number 1 defense in the league, rolling into town this week in the Denver Broncos. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was last week for Daniel Jones. So for those of you that, think Tyler is going to challenge McBride or Brock for the number 1 overall title this year, I think you're going to be sadly mistaken when Denver comes to town, and we're really going to see what Indianapolis is about with a real defense showing up, because they are a for real defense. They can get after the quarterback. They've got people to play pass coverage. They are no joke. So we're really going to find out what Indy's about this week, hosting Denver at home this week. But overall, Tyler Warren finished at number 5 for the average list that I look at. Number 6, Tyler Kraft. He came in number 6. He's going to be at home versus Washington. I like it. I think he's a solid tight end. There's not a whole lot of depth. There's not a whole lot of depth out there at the tight end position, guys. So like him coming in at number 6. See how he's doing. He actually beat out T.J. Hockenson, which is a little surprising to me, but I think that has to do with Jordan Love showing that he's improved since last year's whatever you call he did last year, because he did not play well last year. And the Green Bay offense seems to be running. And Matt LaFleur has always had a decent offense. He's a great game planner, offensive coordinator, offensive mind. I know he's the head coach, but he always seems to get his people ready to go and running. So Tyler Kraft coming in at number 6 at home versus Washington. So like it there. All right, my 3 sneak tight end picks this week. Again, there's not a whole lot to choose from. I've really struggled to find 3 guys to recommend to you guys that I believed in my heart that, hey, I'm giving you a good recommendation here. So don't kill me over this, but hey, I want to try to give you an outside perspective. So number 1, I've got Jake Ferguson at home versus the Giants. I know I picked him last week. I think, again, that game script in that game, the way it went, kind of took him out the game, but he was targeted. They did Dak tried to get him the ball. I think it's Lamb and him, number 1 options. I think Pickens is a third option in that offense, but I think it's clearly Jake and CeeDee Lamb in that offense, and Dak trusts those guys. He's going to try to get them the ball. And they're playing the Giants, who I think are absolute trash. So I'm going to double down. Like I doubled down on A.J. Brown, I'm doubling down on Jake Ferguson. Number 2, I'm going to go with Njoku, the tight end for Cleveland. Him and Joe Flacco have a great combination. He seems to play better when Flacco does well. If the Cleveland is going to have a chance to steal that game from the Ravens, I think Njoku has to have a big game. I think Flacco's going to look for him. So he is playing at the Ravens. And the Ravens are going to be mad about that game last week. But I don't see a whole lot from their linebacking crew to worry about that, other than Roquan Smith, who's an all-world linebacker. Don't see a whole lot of flash out of the rest of those linebackers of the Ravens deal. So I do like Njoku to have a big game against the Ravens if Cleveland's going to steal it away. So the next one, I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here because, again, guys, there's not a whole lot out there for tight ends. I thought about Evan Ingram, but he's injured. I'm a little worried about him with the deal. So I'm going to go with the guy who dominated last week. He had a good start to the game. He had a couple big catches, but I'm going to be a homer here and go with Dalton Kincaid at New York with the Jets. Again, he's got the best quarterback in the league right now, in my opinion, who's playing on fire. And I think Kincaid has to have a big game to kind of open up the running game for the Bills and kind of pull some coverage towards him to help out like that. And I'm not sure how great the Jets are going to be in pass coverage, but I think Kincaid had a good game last week, and I look to continue to him build on it and get more and more in rhythm with Josh in that offense and figure out how to use him and be successful. So my 3 sneak picks at tight end, again, doubling down on Jake Ferguson at home versus the Giants, David Njoku going to Baltimore, and then Dalton Kincaid going to the New York Jets. So moving on to kickers. This one was, this list it got a little crazy here, but luckily took the time, broke it all down. So number 1 is Brandon Aubrey, again, kicker for Dallas. He's playing at home versus the Giants. I think Dallas is going to run up the score. They like playing in front of their home crowd. They seem to get up for the Cowboy fans. So I think he's going to be kicking field goals. I think they're going to blow him out in the first quarter and the first half, and then you're going to be kicking field goals like halfway through the third quarter into the fourth quarter. They're just going to start booting field goals because the Giants are going to want to go home and get out of Dallas quick. The next one is the Dicker, Cameron Dicker for the Chargers, playing at Las Vegas. I think that Chargers offense is good, and I like where they're going with it. And I don't really respect the Raiders offense or defense, so I think it's going to same thing. The Chargers are going to get out in front, and in the midway through the third quarter, fourth quarter, they're going to start running the clock out, kicking field goals to get out of there. But I like Dicker to kick some field goals in that one. Number 3 here surprises me a little bit, but I do like it because I do think Detroit is morphing into what I call a field goal offense, where they're going to be great between the 20s, but then once you get them down in the red zone, it's easier to defend them. You can't do as much. So I think they're going to kick a lot of field goals this year. So that would be Bates. He's at home. He's at home in the Dome versus Chicago. That's always a plus for a kicker when you don't got to deal with wind on the turf. You don't got to deal with none of the nonsense. So again, I like Bates at number 3 this week on the weekly averages. So number 4, we're going to do the rookie kicker for Baltimore, Tyler Loop, playing at home versus Cleveland. I think he's a good kicker. I think he's solid. I think he's a positive. I think he's a good draft pick, 6th-round draft pick for the Deals. He's at home. I think he's going to want to make up for that extra point he missed in the Bills game. I think that really, hey, he makes that kick, it's a tie ball game, and then we're going to overtime. So I think he's going to want to have a comeback game. Had a solid game overall, other than that one missed kick that he had, and so hey, like him, okay. And because Cleveland plays them so tough, I do see him kicking some field goals in that game. Plays the Baltimore Ravens so tough, I do see him kicking some field goals in that game. So number 5 is the guy who kicked a 60-yard game winner last week, Mr. Chris Boswell, playing at home versus Seattle. Boswell, again, he's been an excellent kicker for the Steelers. He proved it last week when he nailed that 60-yarder. They put up 34 points last week. Boswell was a big part of it, so I see it continuing. Their home. Not sure what you're going to get out of Seattle. Again, they played well, but they also lost to a wounded San Francisco team, and I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers as wounded, and I see them building off that momentum last week that they gained by beating the Jets and come back and winning the Jets. I think they're starting to believe that they are an elite team this year, especially with that big win. So I think that really helped them out. So Boswell, number 5 at home in Seattle. Number 6, the hero of Buffalo, besides Josh Allen and Ed Oliver, Mr. Matt Prater. He gets off the plane on Thursday, kicks the game-winning field goal. He also did kick several other field goals, so he did well. Didn't kick a whole lot of extra points because Buffalo made the choice to chase 2-point conversions, which I don't agree with. But hey, it is what it is. I'll take the results at the end. But yeah, and with how Buffalo has struggled against the Jets' defense and what they've done, I do see him getting some field goals in this game. Or if it goes the other way and Buffalo gets mad, comes out, fixes their defense, they're going to run roughshod over the Jets. So then again, same thing. Blow them out in the first half, kicking field goals in the second half because they're running the ball and trying to get out of there. So can't really go wrong with the Bills kicker or the Baltimore Ravens kicker because those are 2 of the top offenses in the NFL. And if your team puts points on the board, your kicker's going to get you some scores. So my sneak kickers this week, I'm going to go back to my guy last week that I called. I'm shocked he didn't finish in the top 10 this week, in the top 6 overall, but that would be that guy Cam Little out there in Jacksonville. I think he's going to put some points on the board. I see them as a field goal offense this year, so I think and the dude made it from 70 yards in the preseason. So basically, if the Jaguars to me get to the 45-yard line, their own 45, it's a guarantee they're going to let him try and kick it. Now, if he starts missing them like crazy, maybe they rethink that. But pretty much, yeah, I would even say if he gets to the 50-yard line, I see Lee and Cohen saying, hey, yeah, go boot it and see if you can do it all over again. Because, that field, I don't know how many of y'all saw that, but that field goal probably would have been good from 73, 74 yards out. So even if they get to the 50, that's a 67, 68-yarder that he clearly, easily got the leg for. So if you got Cam Little, stick with that dude. I think he's going to finish as the #1 overall kicker this year in fantasy football. So Cam Little. My next one, again, I'm continuing this theme here. Nick Folk at home versus Buffalo. I see that as being a close, tight game where they kick field goals. Do a lot of, they kick a lot of field goals and stuff. It seems to always be a tight game versus Buffalo. And the Jets, they seem to get up, especially at home. The Jets seem to get up at home, and like playing Buffalo tough. So I'm going to go with Nick Folk. And then my last one, Harrison Buckner at home versus Philly. I see Kansas City as a field goal offense, being that they don't have a whole lot of playmakers outside of really they don't have any playmakers. Sorry, I don't consider Hollywood Brown a playmaker. Kelsey's past his prime. Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, none of those guys are game breakers. So I see where they're going to move the ball between the 20s, and then they're going to get down in that red zone, and teams are really going to clamp down on them and go, okay, cool, we'll bend all day long, but we're not going to break. So I see Buckner, and Buckner's got a leg. He's been fantastic for years. He's a very accurate kicker, so that's why I picked him. So 3 sneak picks for the kickers: Cam Little at Cincinnati, Nick Folk at home versus Buffalo, and then Harrison Buckner at home versus Philadelphia. So last but not least, we're going to get on to the defenses. Defenses, #1 overall this week, we have the Ravens at home versus Cleveland. I think that defense is going to come out mad. I think they're going to come out and prove that what they did, the defense they showed the first 3 quarters is who they actually are. Now, Joe Flacco seems to have that Flacco magic against those guys, but I think at home, in opening game for the Ravens, they're at home, their fans are going to be going crazy and nuts. So I see them coming out and having a great game and really putting it on Flacco and getting after him and fixing some of those defensive mistakes that they made in the third, from the 8 minutes on in the fourth quarter against Buffalo, because you ain't playing Josh Allen this week. Let's just say that. And I know they're happy about that in the Ravens camp. #2 after finishing is going to be the Denver Broncos. They're going to Indianapolis. I'm actually shocked they're not #1. They had a great game last week. They're the reason that Denver managed to pull off the win against Tennessee last week, because their offense played terrible. But that defense is for real, and I think they're going to be a top 3 defense all year. Wouldn't be shocked if they're a top #1 overall defense all year, and we're really going to find out I'm not buying the Daniel Jones Indianapolis hype, and I think they're going to get exposed this week when Denver comes to town and shows them what a real defense looks like versus that trash team they played last week in Miami. So Denver #2 and they're a fast defense, and when you put a fast defense in a dome, they get faster. So I really look for them to come out and just dominate that game, start to finish. I think for all the kudos Daniel Jones got last week, you're going to see a different game. You might, in fact, I'll be honest, you might see Anthony Richardson in this game because of how bad they're going to whoop up on Daniel Jones and how bad they make him look. He may be getting pulled in the third quarter because that defense is just going to unleash on him, and they want to prove how dominant they are this year. #3 is another defense that I think is going to be a top 5 defense this year. They're playing a terrible team this year. It's the Rams going to Tennessee to play them. The only thing that really worries me about the Rams is they are a dome team, and they're now going to an outside. Now the weather should be good. It should be okay. But still, those fast, light defenses in those domes, when they go out to an outdoor stadium, they do lose a little bit of that quickness. So we'll see how it goes. But I think the Rams are a fantastic defense. Like I said, I have them for a top 5. Their defense played Philly the toughest all year in the playoffs last year. So I think they continue that streak, and they continue to roll in that aspect. So Rams at #3 going to Tennessee. I think and again, I just don't think Tennessee has a good offense. So kind of, walking into the line then for Mr. Cam Ward again. What a tough start for that guy. He gets the Broncos last week, who's probably the #1 defense in the league, and now he's getting the Rams this week. Now, the only 2 advantages is he's at home for both those games, but still, what a way to start your NFL career when you start against probably the #1 defense in the NFL in 2025, and I would say easily a top 5, maybe a top 3 defense in the NFL. Moving on, we've got the Niners at New Orleans. Again, they have to play great because their offense is banged up and they got nobody. So, they put it on Seattle last week. I think that was more just bad Seattle offense than it was the Niners. But Robert Saleh is a great defensive coordinator, and he's going to do amazing things out there. So we'll see how it goes. But I think the number 4 ranking that the Niners ended up with this week was more because of who they're playing versus how talented they are. But hey, they did get a win. They held down that Seattle offense. So we'll definitely see how it goes. But again, kind of who you have on your roster. I don't know, some people, if you got a backup defense, maybe somebody better, but it's tough to kind of go against that, guys. So moving on, we're going to go with number 5 overall average finish. The Steelers, they're playing at home versus Seattle. They got ran over last week by the Jets. Really, the Jets made some mistakes that lost them that game more than the Steelers' defense won that game. But they're going against Seattle, who I don't think Sam Darnold's the answer. I think he's morphing back into that first-round bust that we saw for the majority, almost his whole career, other than that 1 year at the Vikings. But I do like it. They're at home. They're going to be playing crazy. They're going to go nuts. You're going to have the steel curtain behind them, the terrible towels going because it's their home opener. So I think that, like I said last week, that buoyed them. And as that team comes together, because they did bring in a lot of new pieces, they're going to start playing together. They're going to start gelling better together and start doing well. So I do like them overall, number 5. The deal. I would probably have them higher. I would probably have them rated above the Niners this week. But again, I look at the 5 list. I see where everybody has them rated, and I just average it out. So that's why the Steelers came in at number 5. Number 6. Again, I think this is who they're playing. I don't think their defense is great. But the Cardinals at home versus Carolina, I think this is strictly because Carolina looks like a lost puppy, and if Bryce Young doesn't kind of go back to what he was playing at the end of last year, and he continues on this path of being just a first-round bust, they're going to be in a lot of trouble in Carolina for sure. So the Cardinals finishing number 6 overall averages and playing at home versus Carolina. So again, I think that's more about who they're playing, not how great their defense is. So expect some turnovers in that game by Carolina if we're lucky, especially because it's at home. Cardinals playing at home. Carolina, East Coast team coming out. And I know it's not a West Coast game, but East Coast team going out to Pacific time or Mountain West time. I think it's out there. So all right, and then man, it was tough. If the kickers was. The tight ends and kickers was tough to pick sneak picks on. Defense was even harder because really, once you get to the top 6, top 10, man, there's really not. The rest of them are just basically streamer plays, tough to go. So what I picked was I picked 2 teams that I think I picked 2 teams, and here they are. So I'll roll them out for you. So my first pick for a sneak defensive play is the Cowboys. I just think the Giants are absolute trash. I think Russell Wilson is garbage. They need to bench him and move on to Jackson Dart. I know Jackson Dart's a rookie, but hey, he's the future. Let's see what you got out of him and move on. But as long as Russell Wilson continues to play, you're going to see either the moon ball or Russell Wilson scrambling around and getting his head blown off. I know Dallas isn't a great defense, and they're now missing Deron Bland, injured his foot. But Diggs started playing a little bit. Kyrie Leonard played a little bit again. They didn't do terrible. They did okay. But I just think it's more about the lack of talent on the Giants' offense more than anything. And again, the Cowboys seem to get up and play better in front of their home crowd. So they're going to be going nuts. They're going to be going crazy. This is their home opener. So definitely see how it goes from there. So Cowboys at home versus the Giants for my first sneak pick on defense. My second sneak pick is strictly because of how good they looked last week. I know they're playing a better offense this week, at least what I think is a better offense, but I want to see it continue. And it's at home. It's a standalone game. So my second sneak pick is the Packers at home versus Washington. Of all the teams, I think they can really get after Jaden Daniels. They've got Gary on one side. They've got Micah Parsons on the other side. They seem to have youth. They have speed. They have quickness. That defensive coordinator is putting things together. I think he's going to come up with a great game plan. I think this is going to be the first game where you see Jaden Daniels really, what's going on here? Because last week he played a terrible offense last week, so he wasn't really pressured. Whereas this week you're going to have to score to keep up with the Packers, and that defense is going to make it tough for you. So this is the first week I think maybe we see a little crack, a little chinks in the armor where a team game plans better for Jaden Daniels and really gets after him and kind of exposes some flaws in his game. Not that there is a whole lot, but again, year two of a quarterback, people have game tape on him, and I really like what the Packers are doing. I wasn't a huge fan of the Micah Parsons trade, but after watching them and what they did in Week 1 to Detroit, I'm starting to be a believer and starting to think, hey, they may actually have a chance to challenge the Eagles for the NFC supremacy. So again, my 2 sneak picks for the defenses are the Cowboys at home versus the Giants and the Packers at home versus Washington. So that's the recap for this week, guys, on Week 2 of the top 6 for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, sneak picks in there. As always, Tuesday we'll do a recap video of where people finished and how they did and how my sneak picks did, and then kind of go from there. So, let's talk about my team. So in my in my dynasty leagues this week, I've got I've got Justin Herbert going, I've got Derrick Henry going, I've got starting quarterback between Caleb Williams and Justin Herbert. I'm going to pick Justin Herbert. My starting running backs, I'm going to go with Derrick Henry and Travis Etienne. At wide receiver, I'm still going to trust Chase, and I'm going to go with Lamb. At tight end in my dynasty league, I'm going to go with Trey McBride. Kicker, Cam Little again. And then for my defense, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense over the Seattle defense. I do have them on the bench. In my Yahoo league, PPR league, I picked up Justin Herbert off the waiver wire. Lucky enough to get him, so I'm going to bench Caleb Williams. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. For my quarterback, my running backs, man, this one's going to be tough on me this week. I'm not really liking my options, but it is what it is. I'm going with Bucky Irvin going to Houston. I think Houston's a good defense, but I think Irvin's going to have a good game in that. And then James Cook, I'm going to ride with him again, even though right now he got a hamstring injury that he's dealing with, but we'll see how he works out for the rest of the week. My 2 backups in that league are Zach Charbonneau and Jordan Mason. Didn't see a whole lot on Mason, but they are playing Atlanta. And then Charbonneau, I'm really worried about the distribution out there between him and Kenneth Walker. So I'll go from there. Wide receivers, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. Again, I think he's a stud. And then I'm going to play Marvin Harrison. I think he's going to have a great game. Tight end, I'm going with Sam Laporta and running with him. My flex position, I have a flex in my Yahoo league. I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton. I'm thinking about putting Keon Coleman in there, but I'm a little nervous because you got Sauce Gardner out there who plays well. He's an all-pro corner, so I'm a little worried they're going to put Sauce on Keon, and I don't know if Keon is ready yet for an all-pro corner. He hasn't shown. I love what he did last week, but Sauce is a different beast, man. Again, and then Cam Little, the kicker, again, I have a theme about him. I think he's going to be the next Justin Tucker of the NFL. So if you got him in Dynasty League or if you can draft him, go pick him up, go trade for him. I think he's a great player. And then I'm running with the Houston defense again. I like the Houston defense. I think they're elite. I just wish their offense would get a little better to help them out. So, all right. So I did go 2-0 last week. Hope to repeat that this week, and we'll go from there. So good luck to everybody playing this week. Hopefully you do well. Let me know your comments and thoughts on my list and my sneak picks, and let me know how you did. Let me know if you got somebody out there that you think's a better sneak pick, or if you disagree with the list and think someone should have made it in there. Remember, I do put this list together by looking at ESPN, Fantasy Pros, CBS, Sports Illustrated, and Roto-baller. One last thing I owe this to a person, a guy I play my dynasty league with. He's the owner of my team. I'm the GM. We have a little fun with it, but we had a little debate about Travis Etienne. We cut him when we did our keepers for our dynasty league, and he gave me some trash talking and told me I gave up on Etienne too early. I actually picked up Tootin, thinking Bigsby was going to be the guy out there. So I want to let my owner, Woody, know, hey, man, this is for you. You found the blind squirrel found the nut. So let's see if Etienne can't bring us home another Super Bowl title in our dynasty league. So that one's for you, Woody. Anyways, guys, as always, my aficionado Fiend fans, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to talking to you. Give me your comments. Let me know what you think on the video, and I'll talk to you again later. Bye.